Fission radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear.
Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. Thank you for joining us today. Today is December 9, 2016, and it is 8 o'clock in the morning on the Pacific Coast, and it is cold outside, unlike it's normally in the winter. It's a bit of a chill, but man, is it cold out there. I did not get snow, and no, I have not felt the earthquakes. They are pretty severe. So today I had a guest lined up who had something come up at the very last minute, was unable to connect with me. And so I've decided I'm going to open the phone lines and bring to you some things of interest to me if nobody calls in. I hope to hear from you because we've had some really amazing guests. We can talk about anything that you want, including politics. You know me, I'm always up for a good spar for anyone who tells me that Trump is a decent human being. I mean, honestly, he's already lied to us. And Mad Dog Mattis, let's don't forget that one. Anyways, I did want to talk to you about why I give you out Elliot Mainzer's phone number, who I did call after I spoke with Heidi, and she said she'd go to lunch with me with him. Called his office and said, I'd like to make an appointment with him. Would you please call me back? They have not called me back. But, you know, I'm like white on rice. I'll keep calling. So if anybody hasn't looked at the earthquakes that have been shaking our planet, please take a look, because all along the West Coast, I mean, literally in the last day, we had an earthquake. Where is this one? Morton, Washington, and it's pretty close to the border. It's right past the border of Oregon. We had one right on near that Juan de Luca Fault that's out there, lower towards California. And some hit this morning actually on land at Rio Del in California, right on the tippy coast of California, which frankly is probably pretty closer to Diablo Canyon, I would say, than it is to the Columbia Generating Station. But the problem with the Columbia Generating Station is if there is an earthquake up there, folks, it is going to cause a catastrophe for the entire planet. It is unconscionable that the Bonneville Power Administration has not closed it down, that Elliot Mainzer, who has the power, who understands the earthquake, gravity of the earthquake faults there, watching the earthquake faulting, if he's not, he's abdicating his job, and he is not moving to shut that place down. We need it in cold shutdown before it melts down. And I am going to give you out the number. It is 800-282-3713. Call this man at least once a week. I mean, you don't have to do it every day, but, you know, pick a day and call him once a week, because you know what? He's not going to shut it down with just one or two phone calls. So I am encouraging everyone every time I get on this radio, if I can do it before my guests start talking, how we'll be doing it. And so I tend to get a little carried away with my guests, though, when they get here. I'm so excited. I'm actually very grateful for the people that we've had on here in the last few weeks. I mean, we have been really lucky. I mean, Larry Bergen is a gem, Heidi Lambert, Hope. I mean, people have really been working, and that's the good part about having a 5-day-a-week venue, is that we can give voice to the activists out there who are singularly or in a small way helping make big changes. And anybody that wants to give me a call to discuss anything, the number is 718-717-8296, and we can discuss any of this. So I thought what I'd do is talk to you. There's a few things that I did want to do. First, let's get a bit of poetry in. Again, The Way of Life, Lao Tzu, translated by Witter Bynner. This will remind us why we care, because this was written, 2,500 years ago, translated and found. This culture has been around for 2,500 years, and the Western culture is about to just eradicate the entire planet in 150 years. That's what we're looking at, eradicating life as we know it, folks. So, number 35. If the sign of life is in your face, he who responds to it will feel secure and fit, as when in a friendly place, sure of hearty care, a traveler gladly waits. Though it may not taste like food, and he may not see the fare, or hear a sound of plates, how endless it is, and how good. Oh man, I don't know about you, but that thrills my heart. That makes my spine tingle. I love poetry. So there you go. I know I'm such a girl, as they say. The other thing I dug out was the oral history of John Goffman. Human Radiation Studies, Remembering the Early Years. Oral history of Dr. John W. Goffman, MD, PhD, conducted December 20th, 1994. United States Department of Energy, Office of Human Radiation Experiments, June 1995. Our government actually published this. Wow. This is amazing. And there's a forward in here. It says in December, I want to read it to you a little bit. I'm just going to read the forward. I am going to read this on my YouTube channel, just like I've read 2 of his books. My YouTube channel is Nuts for Art, NUTZFORART, and that's on YouTube. And I am actually, I have a bunch of playlists there, and I've read 2 of John Goffman's books, and I'm going to read this, and I've been waiting for school to get out. So I want to read this. It's not very long. It's a quick forward, maybe a page and a half, but we'll tell you all about this. And this stuff is stunning, what they have done in the existing records. Think about the existing records that they have. This is just stunning. Okay, so in December 1993, U.S. Secretary of Energy Hazel R. O'Leary announced her Openness Initiative. Wonder what happened to her. As part of this initiative, the Department of Energy undertook an effort to identify and catalog historical documents on radiation experiments that had used human subjects. Wow, that had used human subjects, meaning our soldiers and our people, and the Marshallese. That's the human subjects they used. The Office of Human Radiation Experiments coordinated the department's search for records about these experiments. An enormous volume of historical records has been located. Many of these records were disorganized, often poorly cataloged, if at all, and scattered across the country in holding areas, archives, and record centers. The department has produced a roadmap to the large universe of pertinent information. And this is in italics. Human Radiation Experiments, the Department of Energy Roadmap to the Story of the Records, DOE/EH-0445, February 1995. The collected documents are also accessible through the Internet World Wide Web. How cute is this? They even wrote that out. through the internet World Wide Web under http://www ohre.doe.gov/. I wonder if that's still available. That's going to be an interesting thing. After the show, I'm going to see if I can access that. The passage of time, the state of existing records, and the fact that some decision-making processes were never documented in written form. The fact that some decision-making processes were never documented in written form caused the department to consider other means to supplement the documentary record. In September 1994, the Office of Human Radiation Experiments let me clear my throat. Hold on, I'm going to put the phone on mute here, folks. Yeah, that's better. In September, the Office of Human Radiation Experiments, in collaboration with Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory, began an oral history project to fulfill this goal, meaning all of their prior work had been shit-canned. That's amazing. The project involved interviewing researchers and others with first-hand knowledge of either the human radiation experimentation that occurred during the Cold War or the institutional context in which such experimentation took place. Wow, look at how they just basically glide over the fact that we bombed over the Marshallese and used them for like lab rats. Knowledge of either the human radiation experimentation that occurred during the Cold War or the institutional context in which such experimentation took place. The purpose of this project was to enrich the documentary record, provide missing information, and allow the researchers an opportunity to provide their perspective. 30 audio-taped interviews were conducted from September 1994 through January 1995. Interviewees were permitted to review the transcripts of their oral histories. Their comments were incorporated into the final version of the transcript if those comments supplemented, clarified, or corrected the contents of the interviews. The Department of Energy is grateful to the scientists and research who agreed to participate in this program, many of whom were pioneers in the development of nuclear medicine. Wow. So I wonder what happened to this lady, Hazel R. O'Leary. I have to Google that because you know what? I wonder if they knocked her off. I wonder if she mysteriously died pretty soon after she published this. Like, can you believe we actually had a government who said they're going to have an openness, what was it called? An openness initiative. That's what it was called. Openness initiative. Hold on, you guys. I'm going to type in her name. See if we can get a Wikipedia. Wikipedia will tell us exactly how she died. She died at the age of 79. I guess she's still around. She's still alive. Yippee. Oh, well, she served as the secretary in 1997, appointed by Bill Clinton. So that's what this is. So she just kept working there, 93 to 97. And it doesn't say what happened to her, but she's still alive. So anyways, good. She hasn't been knocked off, but that openness initiative sure went by the wayside, wouldn't you say? Let me give you Elliot Mainzer's phone number again, because if we look at the earthquake map, I don't know about you, but that big gigantic earthquake in the South Pacific yesterday freaked me out completely. And when we got hit on the West Coast, that's what happens. The planet's one gigantic organic mass, and so earthquakes on the other side of the planet cause earthquakes here. And we have nuclear facilities all up and down the West Coast, and the most dangerous is unequivocally the Columbia Generating Station, far worse than Diablo Canyon, because it is sitting next to Hanford. Hanford makes it the worst. That's what pivots the Columbia Generating Station above everything else, is its proximity to Hanford. And that's what you have to tell Elliot Mainzer. Look, we're not talking about a regular nuclear facility like in New York that's leaking radiation into the water, but they say they need the energy because it provides what they say is 20% to 25% of the energy for New York. Okay. If that's how you want to do it, slowly poison your people. But this If there is an earthquake at the Columbia Generating Station that it cannot sustain and it has a nuclear meltdown, Hanford is going to blow up and destroy the entire northern hemisphere, period. That is what you guys need to say to Elliot Mainzer. 800-282-3713. So the phone number is 718-717-8296. And I'm just going to keep going if nobody calls. Let's talk about the mass animal deaths, because this is what's being caused by nuclear pollution. This is what I think. Between the chemicals, the nuclear pollution, it's all killing us. They're all one. As Dr. John Goffman said, we cannot separate the technologists from the nuclear genociders. They're all the same people. Because, again, when scientists lie, people die. And I would say this. There's a conversation on YouTube right now, and I'm going to be interviewing somebody soon. The reason Dana Durnford has not been back on my show is he believes strongly that if you support Helen Caldicott, Dr. Chris Busby, and Arnie Gunderson, you are supporting liars, that they are lying to us and trying to tell us that there's spent fuel in one of the pools at Fukushima, and they're just lying to us that there's no spent fuel there. And I'll be honest, I tend to agree with Dana's point of view. They couldn't possibly, those buildings blew up. There's no spent fuel pool rods there. They're not tidying up. They're not tidy little people who cleaned it up. I disagree with Dr. Helen Caldicott about what she says, but do I believe it matters? No. No, I do not think so. And you know what? I still admire Dana Durnford's work. I think he has done an excellent job of documenting the coast. He got mad at me, I think, because I said it wasn't scientific, but it wasn't. It doesn't make it any less valid. I mean, it's really compelling evidence that he's done. Go to the nuclearproctologist.org. Take a look at the pictures. Look at what he has shown us. And he wasn't a fake. He went up and down there. I watched him the whole time. And so I am not personally going to take it personally that Dana is mad at me, because I think this nitpicking, this is why I don't like the YouTube community at all. They're malicious and mean, and they say the most ugly things to each other as a matter of habit to try to shut each other up. They pick and pick and pick, and I seriously 100% disagree with that. So it demeans the anti-nuke movement. That's what I think. This is a serious bit of business here, folks, that we have got to stop the circular firing squad. So in the meantime, I'm hoping that me and Dana can make it up at some point. I'm not going to take it personally. I'm going to shake it off, but I'll give him some time. And I hope to have the people that he is mad at, I want to ask them directly about this. But the point is this, it doesn't matter. What really matters is Fukushima is a hot mess, and it has really been rocked by, again, the earthquakes. If we don't get our elected officials to stop pretending like, oh, well, we can just let them melt down and keep having the China syndrome and it's not going to affect the planet, don't worry about it. And the Japanese will gladly mess up the numbers, shame and guilt their people into not talking about the deformations and the death of their children, make people feel like they've contaminated because they have germs because they're from Fukushima. I mean, the shame and guilt and the gaslighting has got to stop. So it's outrageous. It's really outrageous. It's like I saw this video this morning from Larry the Cable Guy telling us, give Trump a chance. He's going to be a good guy. He's appointing everybody, and he's not going to appoint anybody who's his friends. He's doing what's best for the country. Really? No. That's Larry the Cable Guy, who is a super rich guy who stands to get huge tax breaks on the backs of the poor and the middle class. And Donald Trump is appointing his friends. So it's outrageous, to be honest. It's business as usual. Linda McMahon, wife of WWE billionaire, one of his top donors to head the Small Business Administration, one of his top donors. So, really, just stop. I mean, the guy's got Mad Dog Mattis. He's thinking about Petraeus, who gave our secrets. He would have to have his parole officer approve him getting the job. So, so outrageous. Americans have like really hit a low note with this one. But that's the good part about America because we love each other. We are one country of people that we can get through it. And I don't think Trump is evil. I just think he's greedy, narcissistic, misogynistic, needs therapy kind of guy. That's all. I even told him that. I made a YouTube video and thanked him for looking into the camera, telling people to stop it. He needs to do it again, however. But, and I told him he needed therapy in my video. It's a little like 5-minute video. Mass animal deaths. Thousands of snow geese die after landing on toxic water in Montana. Landing on toxic water in Montana. Should we open that link and see what part of Montana it is? Guarantee it is from fracking. Oh, an open mine pit where employees attempted to scare them off. The employer's like, hey, get out of here. 700 acres of white birds on November 28th. They described the pit, 700 acres of white birds on November 28th. Oh, my God. You know how many birds we're losing? That's why we lose birds, because they can fly. Thousands of dead snow geese. 3.4 million poultry killed due to avian flu, South Korea. 700 geese found dead due to it's always avian flu, isn't it? In Poland, all these places, nuclear facilities. 5,000 ducks killed due to avian flu near Tarn Department. I wonder where their nuclear facilities are. Thousands of dead fish wash up. It's a mystery right next to Cornwall. Really? Okay, 500. I mean, you've got Sellafield. Every single one of these mystery diseases and avian flus, you can connect it directly, almost very closely, to a nuclear facility that is failing miserably and leaking. And people are saying, oh, well, I don't have time to call Elliot Mainzer. You know what, folks? You have to call him once a week. His number is 800-282-3713. I heard Guy McPherson this week say, I watched his seminar, and he was in the seminar, said, a woman came up to me and asked me for a short answer on what's the state of the world, because I don't know if you know who Guy McPherson is, but he's a scientist who gave up his job and decided to start doing lectures to tell people how grave our state of our environment is. Whether you call it climate change, but since Fukushima, Fukushima sort of doesn't matter because we're super screwed anyways. We're over the edge in the barrel. We have not hit the bottom, but there's no going back up. There's no rope drag us back up. That's his position. He said, okay, in a short sentence, 4 words, we're screwed. Any questions? Well, it's kind of exactly where we're at. Thousands of dead fish wash ashore for unknown reasons. Nova Scotia, Canada. 540,000 chickens killed due to the avian flu in Nagita, Japan. Massive killfish, state of calamity declared in Lake Bahuni in the Camarines Sur, Philippines. Massive killfish. They don't even tell us how many. 300 blackbirds found dead. A mystery in Town Creek Township, New Jersey. 300. It's a mystery. Thousands of jelly-like creatures washed ashore in California. Thousands of jelly-like creatures. I wonder what this. The way they say this, it's so. If I were really seriously these journalists, I don't think I could work for these companies that tell me not to report on this, not to dig into this, not to look into why are we having these mass animal deaths. 2,000 deers dead to disease near South Dakota. 1 million pounds of dead fish wash up in Southampton, New York, America. Wow. So let's move on. That's kind of really depressing. Just takes us to November 28th, folks. Seriously, we think our planet's not in a crisis. Wait till we have a nuclear meltdown at Columbia Generating Station, because we just had a 7.0 earthquake, which isn't that bad, frankly. I've been through earthquakes. It's a bigger shake. The mountains would move. We might have a little tiny tsunami, but really, the world would not be that horrible. It's going to be horrible if it hits at the Columbia Generating Station, because Hanford is 15 miles away from it. And if nobody can get near it for 72 hours, it starts to melt down. Those chemicals there are going to start blowing up. Within less than a week, it will blow up, and we will have a fire they can't put out, a toxic fire that will destroy our breadbasket in the United States. No more potatoes, no more rice, no more wheat, no more corn. It's all going to blow east to west nonstop. Unless you guys want to eat highly radiated food that will kill your kids in 15, 20 years. I don't. So I'm going to tell you, please, please, please call Elliot Mainzer, 800-282-3713, and tell him, because of the earthquake activity all up and down the West Coast, the increase, huge, the biggest earthquake of the year just happened. What was it? On the other side of the planet, and it caused, a 7.5 off of the coast of California. So, and then there's an earthquake in Washington, so we're in between, we could be hit anytime. So this is a danger to our entire country. And that's what you need to tell Mr. Mainzer when you leave a message. And frankly, you probably won't talk to anybody, but you just have to find someone and leave them that message. So the number is 800-282-3713. This isn't a game. I'm not doing this for fun. This is serious business. I just read how many animals, and millions, there's already millions in less than a few days, millions of massive animal die-offs. Look at this, November 26th, thousands of fish. Scientists are puzzled in Nova Scotia. Really? I think Dana Durnford pretty much proved exactly why those fish are dying. They are dying because they are killed by the nuclear pollution from Fukushima, which comes over in the jet stream, and it has killed the marine life, the incubation where all of the life on the ocean surface starts. It's so outrageous. The level of denial. This is why I am going to read this article, because if you notice, the thing they said, they didn't even keep track of it. They just threw all their documents in boxes and threw it here, threw it there, did not respect it, did not catalog it. They did not, some decision-making processes were never documented in written form. People never even wrote down why they did stuff. That is they should go to jail over this. This is murder. They're genociders. And really, seriously, they're sociopaths who need to be stopped. And the only way we can stop them is really not with beating them up and calling them, horrible things, but to demand that we change our laws, that we fix this. Maybe we should start a campaign with Moniz's office. I wonder he's going to, what his energy pick is going to be. Oh, my God, that scares the crap out of me. I wonder if he'll keep Moniz. Strange and mysterious like jelly-like creatures wash up on Orange County beaches. What these look like in their hand, they have like about 10 of them, and they're like little round balls, little jelly balls that washed up, little tiny creatures have washed up. Some think they are alien eggs. This is how they write these stories to make us believe that it's not that bad. We don't know what they are for sure, but they're gelatinous pods that can slither a bit and dig into the sand. They're things that should be at the bottom of the ocean, and they are coming back up by the millions. You know why? The ocean is toxic from Fukushima, folks. It's still pouring 100,000 tons of radioactive waste at a minimum into the Pacific Ocean nonstop for 5 years. You think that's not going to affect our environment? This is just insanity what these people have done to us. And what the insanity is that we have guys like Larry the Cable Guy telling us to give old Trump a chance after he's already lied to us about the jobs. So outrageous, Larry the Cable Guy. Mr. I'm going to pretend to be poor when I'm really super freaking rich. So it's annoying. And here we have in Germany, the German utility companies are going to be paid money by the German taxpayers because they're losing money because they're closing it down, because these are the laws that they've written. This is the kind of stuff that will start revolutions. The taxpayers have shut down these extremely toxic, dangerous nuclear facilities. They're taking it seriously. And now they lost in court. They're going to have to pay the utility companies a reasonable amount of compensation to shut down the nuclear facilities. You know how much that reasonable amount is? Billions of dollars. It is so outrageous. We are in a really serious hurt on this planet when our justice systems, $8.6 billion. That's what they're going to have to, that's what they're saying they played. So the analysts have estimated the losses at $6 billion. So they're going to have to pay something like that. It is such an outrage. We're trying to protect our country, protect our world, and we have to pay the genociders money. Wow. And we wonder why the Swiss rejects the rapid nuclear phase out, because they're like, screw that. We're not going to pay for nuclear facilities. This is a problem. We've entered into contracts with these nuclear facilities, and the taxpayers have to pay money if they want them shut down. So we pay for them while they're up and operating. We pay for the expense of any accident that happens. They have complete impunity, personal impunity, if they lie to us like they did at the Columbia Generating Station. They lied on their license and excluded a known earthquake fault, which they knew was there. They excluded it. And it did not come out until the Oregon Physicians for Social Responsibility hired a geologist to discover it and looked into it and said, they knew about it. They just didn't put it on there. And then they made their report, found some earthquake faults under the Columbia Generating Station. The state got mad and found them. Guess what the state found? More earthquake faults under the Columbia Generating Station and earthquake faults underneath Hanford, which isn't a surprise because it's only 15, that's right, 15 miles away. I don't know about you, but that gets me stirred up at 8 o'clock in the morning thinking about it. I just had what ought to have been some really beautiful news last night. My daughter called me up and told me she's going to have a baby. And to be honest, I attempted not to be shocked, but that's the kind of thing people should be. Everybody was like, "Yay, I'm so happy for you," and I'm like, "Ugh, really?" I mean, I am happy for my daughter. She's going to have 4 children, which I think is a lot of kids for me. I'm kind of a 2-kid person, you know what I mean? But that's her business. She's always wanted 4 children. This is going to be her 4th pregnancy. She's a great mom. Her husband's a great dad. They have a stable family. My grandchildren are awesome people. They're the kind of people you want to have having babies. That's the upside. The downside is that I know the gravity of our future. And I feel robbed, just like John Goffman says in his book, The Irreverent Illustrated View of Nuclear Power. And that is the book that Carl Grossman mentioned the last time he was on the show about IREVI. I mean, it's one of the books I brought to the table this morning when I knew I was going to have to do the show by myself, when it came up at last minute that I was going to do the show on my own. So the number, in case anybody wants to call, is 718-717-8296. And I'm going to give our station a shameless plug here at ucy.tv. It is getting at the end of the year. Please donate and contribute. I don't believe it's a tax deduction, but it's a really great service to promote. We really do need to help this station get more listeners. It's the one place that you can get nuclear news, geoengineering news, mind and thought processes, consideration, the Flying Lasagna show. I don't know if you guys listen to it, but that's actually a really awesome show. There's a lot of really great shows on this station that you are not going to get anywhere else. Nuclear Hot Seat. I mean, you might get them. They are everywhere else, but we have them all in one place. And it is news-free, and it is spontaneous, and we allow our listeners to engage with us fully, many of the shows. So I am going to give us all a shameless plug. Please share our podcasts with your friends and family. Encourage them to listen to them while they're working or podcasting, driving down the street, because we have some very fascinating information that needs to be told. Very fascinating. And if you can afford it, contribute to our station. It would help build it up a little bit. So I just wanted to say that because I feel very strongly about the ability of us to get out. I mean, the alternative news is about to be fingered for fake news, like a lot of the stuff that comes out on here. It's kind of like this argument. This is one of the things I can't wait to talk to Carl Grossman about. The fake news, like the YouTube community, the anti-nuke community on YouTube is considered not real activists by the so-called active activists. And I don't get that. I mean, I don't get why we're not engaging everybody, and we don't all have to agree. It's kind of like that thing I said about Dana. He's super mad. I mean, you should watch his videos. He picks apart their words. Like, really, I don't think we need a circling firing squad, and I disagree with anybody who listens to this show to pick on Dana, because he is getting out there. My big thing with him is that he ought not to be calling people liars, scientists who are advocating for nuclear victims in court. We don't know what coercion they've gone through. We don't know what kind of threats they've gone through. We do know the nuclear industry knocks you off and harasses you, as Dana has learned. So I think we really have to move past this whole conversation of being mad at each other and open up our hearts and allow ourselves to love each other. Love, really, I talked about this yesterday at the end of the show. Love is the key, really. It is important. They killed the 60s movement because people were beginning to open their hearts up and live from a different place. But that is what's going to get us through the next 150 years, 200 years, or however long our species lasts. It's completely outrageous what they've done to us and put us in this position. So let me continue. I want to share with you today's event notification from the NRC because, it's outrageous. They don't lie to us. They put it right there. They don't hide it. They do mislead what they're saying, but it's here. You can read through it. So here we go. This is the nuclear news. When did this event happen? Notification date 12/1, and we are on 12/9. They just published it. So it took them a week and a half to get through this, I guess, to figure out what it was. Nuclear Fuel Services, Inc., uranium fuel fabrication. That is what Larry Bergen was doing, right? He was working in those plants. HAU conversion and scrap recovery, naval reactor fuel cycle, LEU scrap recovery. Region 2, Irwin, Tennessee. On December 1st, the speakers for the portion of the bottom floor of Building 305 office and lunchroom areas were inadvertently disabled during construction activities to remove obsolete equipment. Special nuclear material is not processed, handled, or stored within these areas when the speaker system was disabled. However, these areas require evaluation in the unlikely event of a nuclear criticality accident as described in NFS emergency plan. So there was no real radiological consequences. It's just, oops, sorry, we might have put you in danger, and we have to report it. It's a compliance thing. Full compliance was restored by repairing a disabled cable in a speaker circuit. Okay, so that wasn't that horrible. This is a compliance issue, so maybe that's why they took it a week. Who knows? I guess we could look into it and not believe what they say. Because they were moving it, so who knows? A series of compensatory actions were taken, including restricting access to the affected areas to essential personnel and establishing radio communication between the personnel in these areas and the personnel continuing monitoring the alarm station panel. That's weird. So why did they do that? It sounds like they cut them off. The potential consequence was that in the event a nuclear criticality accident, evaluation could be delayed for those personnel within the areas with a resultant increase of postulated doses. Additionally, this is how these people write. I think they must go to school to try to mess with your head. Okay, so here we are. Power plant in Cooper, Nebraska. Power reactor, Cooper, Nebraska. I didn't even know there was one in Cooper, Nebraska. Wow. Okay. The facility is called Cooper, and it is in, I guess, Cooper, Nebraska, Region 4. Accident mitigation. Nice of them. This happened yesterday, 12/8. At 22:40, December 16th, 2016. How could that happen? We're at December 9th. They must mean December 6th. Clerical error caught here, or unless they're planning it. At 22:40, December 16th, 2016, it was identified that HVSW control switch for supply fan, SF blah blah blah, main control room and AC unit supply fan had been inadvertently placed to off, leaving no supply fan running as required to maintain control room emergency filtration system operable. It was discovered following the performance of a central control building ventilation functional test. It was estimated that the switch was in an off for approximately 22:20 during the preparation and came back out at 22:40. Okay, so it says to restore operable status within 7 days. So they turned it off. I guess it's off. It is estimated that the control switch was placed in off at approximately 22:20 during preparation of 6.1 HV.302 per S.OP SP2238. Time of discovery was 22:40. This resulted in an unplanned LCO. I wonder what an LCO entry for the CREFs. The control room emergency filtration system was subsequently declared inoperable. Condition A was entered with the required actions to operable status within 7 days. Wow. Harris, North Carolina, another power reactor, folks. Potential emergency response. Technical support. Ventilation system out of service due to failed intake fan. So that was just one day. This is so outrageous. They just move it on. They just write it away. Who gives a crap? Okay, so I'm going to share with you from this book from Dr. John Goffman. He talks about it being a human right. Issue the human rights. This is a very interesting thing because right before this he talked about disobedience, civil disobedience, or what did he say? Obedience, civil or uncivil disobedience. He has a whole chapter on that about how it's easy to get caught up and get angry, but it's very important for us to keep our heads. Because especially when this was written in the 70s, there was a lot of people like they were thinking that they should arrest anybody who was, protesting too loud or taking actions. And so he has this whole chapter about how we need to just really be civil, make sure that we stand for the right thing. That nuclear power promotion is a human depravity of the first order has been evident to a limited group for some 10 years. This is now becoming rapidly appreciated by an ever-growing segment of this screw-e public, because they're the screwers, right? We're the screw-e public. Suppose we win a ban on nuclear power because it is becoming evident that it is also an economic crock. How much will we have won? As bad as nuclear power is to human terms for this and future generations, let there be no doubt that a privilege extension and profit-oriented society will think up other activities as bad or worse. Anything goes if a profit can be made from it or if the dependence of the screw-e's can be increased. Wow. Maybe I should read this book on my YouTube channel. So let's see, we have about 15 minutes, but I really do want to share this quick thing, what he talks about, human rights. The issue, human rights. I don't think I'll get through the whole thing. It's about a page and a half, but I have 15 minutes. And this is on page 223 in the chapter called Law and Justice from the book The Irreverent Illustrated View of Nuclear Power by John W. Goffman. The issue, human rights. I do not now hold, nor have I ever in the past, any opinion, one way or the other, concerning whether civil disobedience is good or bad approach to fighting nuclear power. I simply do not know. There is no doubt in my mind that the promotion of nuclear power is itself a criminal act of the worst sort, given the constitution under which we now live. No doubt at all. The Constitution of the United States does not permit the taking of life without due process of law. Nuclear power, which began its random murder of citizens of the United States even before the nuclear power plant goes into operation, is obviously an infringement of constitutional rights. Even if there were no constitutional violation, nuclear power is a violation of natural rights and justice. There are those in our society who don't realize that justice is a concept which exists quite independently of any law made by legislatures, even though that independence is commonly acknowledged whenever someone says that law is unfair. Moreover, probably most Americans have forgotten the Ninth Amendment to our Constitution, stating the fact that certain rights inhere naturally to the people, whether or not the Constitution spells them out specifically. The right to life is certainly one such natural law. I mentioned above that nuclear power starts to commit murder even before the plant goes into operation. It does so by guaranteeing that people are going to be poisoned for hundreds of thousands of years by radon and its daughter products brought to the surface of the earth in the course of mining the uranium needed to operate the nuclear plants. Had these substances remained in the bowels of the earth, they would have done no harm. And random murder of citizens is further increased by the fact that there are emissions of radioactive substances both in the normal and abnormal operation of nuclear fuel cycle. Just how large the number of people to be murdered is depends upon the outcome of the largest experiment upon humans that evil genius has yet concocted. I say that this experiment is evil in the extreme because it not only kills humans of this generation, but because it reaches into countless future generations with its lethal effects. That certainly qualifies as the depths of depravity, particularly because future generations may have much better common sense than ours does, and might not elect to be poisoned if they had the opportunity to decide for themselves. For our purposes here, it is immaterial. For our purposes here, it is immaterial whether the numbers to be murdered by the operation of a single plant, such as the Palo Verde plant, are to be counted in the tens, hundreds, or the millions. Murder is murder. We have not yet adopted the position that criminals who kill people have to kill a certain number before their action qualifies as a crime. Let me read that again. Murder is murder. We have not yet adopted the position that criminals who kill people have to kill a certain number before their action qualifies as a crime. It may indeed be true that society could reach the decision that it is all right to murder a certain number of people in the course of industrial activities, but it is a profound decision and should only be taken with full cognizance of its true meaning. And that is exactly what they have done. They have decided, in fact, this NRC that I'm reading these nuclear alerts has on their website, dug in there somewhere, I forget where I found it one day. They accept John Goffman's statistics that for every 2 rads of radiation in the air, we are going to see an additional 32,000 cancers every year and 225 birth defects in children for a population of 1 million. So that means a quarter of the children, folks. For 2 rads in the air for a population of 1 million, we're going to get 225,000 birth defects. Cha-ching for the medical industry, right? Because the kids aren't going to die right away. It's a win-win situation. I do not know how these people live with themselves. It's beyond comprehension. So we have 10 minutes left, and I am going to give you Elliot Mainzer's phone number again. Elliot Mainzer, go get your pencil and paper and write this number down and put it somewhere. 800-282-3713. Calendar a time you can call him every single week. I have actually called him and asked him to go to lunch with him. I want to bring him some information. I'll bring him this study from Dr. John Goffman. There's a lot of things that he could read if he's interested. But the thing is, he's probably being paid not to read and not to be interested. I haven't heard back from him. He's with the Bonneville Power Administration, and he has the authority to shut down the nuclear power facility at the Columbia Generating Station, which used to be called Whoops. It's kind of like, for me, it has not been lost on me. You know, this is the ironic part about our political system. Trump is going to be what they call a delegative presidency. He's going to delegate. He's going to do personal favors for people, just like Clinton would have been. But the issue with Trump that makes him so hard for me to deal with is they're going to do it on the backs of the poor people. Seriously bad on the backs of the poor people. And I just can't get this off of our head that we're going to have Mad Dog Mattis as the presidential's advisor, national security advisor. And it does not, I don't know about you, but I don't know, for me, the irony and the joke that they perpetrate on us, hiring Ben Carson to gut the housing department at HUD. I mean, that's what he's going to do. He's going to gut it. He has no experience. He's going to say, no, we don't need this, we don't need that, and has no concept how it's going to affect the economy or the people at the bottom. And the irony of a black man killing the housing department has not been lost on me, just like hiring an Asian woman, Mitch McConnell's wife, as the Department of Education to voucherize our public schools and to cut them off at the knees and say, if you want to go to school, you have to pay, because that's how it works, man. Free market, and those are called neoliberal ideas, in fact. When you give the big businesses the great big advantage, those are all Milton Friedman's ideas. And it has failed miserably all across the planet, which is why people don't do it, but I don't know. Americans are sad. I mean, it's really sad what we've done to ourselves. Education, you guys, I would encourage anybody who has the time to please go back to school and get a formal education, because this is what's wrong. We have a bunch of uneducated people running around, watching YouTube, watching Facebook, listening to what other people say, listening to seminars, and not really doing the reading, not doing the work, not expanding their minds, seeing the plethora of information that we have in our history, and understanding the gravity. Like, I have this really great book. It's a Thomas Jefferson, Westward, the Course of Empire. And I got it because it talks about how they're building their foreign policy and their empire. And when I read this book, the author is quite sympathetic to Thomas Jefferson. But it's interesting to think about. This is a man who had slaves, like hundreds of slaves, like a lot. And seriously, I'm shocked by that as an American 200 years later, as a female American. Just as like people in the Middle East are shocked that women can have all these rights. They're like, they've never heard of it. You know what I mean? But that is the cultural difference that we're living in. It's up to us to save our planet, folks. We have got to take some action and be kind and love each other and not take it so personally and not throw people over the bus just because you're mad at them. I mean, we're all on the same side. Dr. Caldecott, Helen Busby, even Arnie Gunderson, who I take issue with for charging for speaking fees, has done great work to out the nuclear industry. How many scientists are out there actually telling the truth? Whether they believe what the Japanese are telling them is going on at Fukushima or not, we can look at our own eyes. It's falling apart. Radiation levels, I hope that Chuck Heinemann is going to be with me. I think it's going to be on Monday. Or, I don't know, one of these days. He's coming up, I think it's Monday. And we're going to be talking about the radiation levels. It's off the charts. He called me up and said, hey, we got to start talking about this. Since that earthquake happened over there in Japan a couple weeks ago, radiation levels have hit the roof. I mean, I saw a guy on Facebook, 38.5 or something, right in Carmel. Like, that's outrageous. That's way over the level of safety. We're living and breathing in times when they used to call this an emergency, a nuclear emergency. And they're just, they have quietly upped the quote acceptable level of radiation. That's why they say that's, oh, we're within the range of acceptable radiation because they raised the limits without regard to the studies, without regard for any of this information. I mean, we know what it does. We know what it causes to human health. And they can pretend. They can pretend that it's not going to harm anybody, but in 5 years, people are going to be quite sick. It is really in the back of my head. This is partly why, like yesterday, when my daughter said she was pregnant, I'm like, oh, I'm grateful that she's at least a vegan, to be honest. And she's, a happy person because that helps. I don't know. It's really, for me, it is and I have to really work at not being afraid. I have to take my own advice every single day because uh, they really don't care. John Goffman is actually right. Murderers are murderers, and they are murdering us. And we are their biggest science experiment they've ever had, ever. And they're genociders. And if we don't stop them and take action, not just these phone calls that you make a huge difference. There's so few people that call their elected officials and put pressure on them. My own elected official, Pete DeFazio's office, I talked to them. And she said, we have over 300,000 constituents. We get about 3,000 calls a year. And many of those 3,000 calls are repeated offenders, meaning like me. I call them all the time. So how many people are really calling? We don't know. But probably not that many. I guess they could tell us, but they're not going to tell us. Like less than 1,000 people, I guess, would call, 1,500. But that 1,500 makes differences in legislation. I was just watching C-SPAN. People need to watch what they're doing in this government. I mean, the House went home, period. They're not passing anything else. And you know what they're not passing? Is the legislation to pay for the insurance for the coal miners, which expires on the 31st of December. They want them to wait until April with no health insurance. The coal miners who have given their health and their life to bring energy to this country, they have a contract with the government to pay for their health insurance as compensation for risking their lives. And this Republican Congress refuses to do anything about it. And it is only going to get worse. And people who think it doesn't matter, wait till it doesn't matter. And maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need it to get so bad that people will actively engage. And let's just hope that the Columbia Generating Station does not have an earthquake anywhere near it. It was built for a 4.5 earthquake. They upped that to 6.0 after Fukushima, just like they upped the radiation limits. So we have a devious, murderous set of people in office who have been mandated to lie to us. So please call Elliot Mainzer, put some pressure on him to shut down the Columbia Generating Station, 800-282-3713. Tell him with the increase of earthquake activity, it has put our country at grave risk to keep that plant still open. Anyways, thank you for joining me. This is Lonnie Clark, the Age of Fission radio show. Nobody called in, which was okay with me because I obviously had a lot to talk about. And we will hopefully talk to, I think, Chuck on Monday. And put your courage feet on, you guys. Please take some action. Please call Elliot Mainzer. Find out, dig in, don't take my word for it. Get some of John Goffman's books. Read the information that they are intentionally burying and disregarding. So it's important for us to arm ourselves with knowledge. Put your courage feet on, take some action, walk in love, and remember, love is greater than fear. Talk to you guys later.